Hello everybody, hope you guys are all doing well. Happy fall. Today I want to talk to you guys about the end of summer jam mood readathon that I participated in last month. I found out about this readathon from Bookish Kelly, and then she had several other co-hosts. It was a really happy, fun, lighthearted little reading event. So I wanted to make a whole video about this because in this readathon there were 9 prompts, and each prompt was supposed to correspond with a book, and you can talk about only that book with only that prompt, right? So prompt number 1 goes with the first book I read, prompt number 2 with the second. You get the idea. And so I've got all of my books read and my little bingo card filled out. So now I want to do the last part, which is to talk about the books using the prompts that they came up with. So this bingo card had 1, 2, 3, all the way down through 9, and I put a sticker on for each one of the books that I read, and the sticker kind of corresponds to the subject matter of the book. So as we go along, you'll see. So the first book I read corresponds with this typewriter sticker, and that is The Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon, Volume 5. So I just got volume 6 in the mail yesterday. When I finish my book today, I'm going to start it. I am obsessed with these. So let's see what the prompt says. For prompt number 1, it says, how did this book make you feel? Talk about the good, the bad, the happy, the sad. So I want to try really hard not to give spoilers because I really think this is such a good series that I would recommend to anyone, probably women. I don't think guys would be that much into M.M. Lyon, but it is so just relatable. So to be kind of vague, the way the book made me feel, I could relate. I felt like I could relate to Emma's character. So Emma is on the later stages of a grief journey. She lost someone really special to her several years, 2 or 3 years before the book starts, 2 years, I think. And so you catch her, in the aftermath of the shock and the, pulling her life back together and all of the things that you go through at the beginning of a grief journey. She is now just kind of, the series starts out with her starting fresh, and she's in a new place and things are a little different. And like I said, I don't want to give too many spoilers, but it is set in the Victorian times in England, and Emma M. Lyon is a single girl who has some inheritance coming her way, but it's not there yet. And so she, goes through financial struggles and just like personal, who am I, where am I going sort of struggles. And all of this while grieving. Like I said, the later stages of grieving where you're still having grief and there's still things that bring it up, but you're also still you're functioning day to day, and there's times when you don't think about it, and there's other beautiful things that come in and sort of fill in that gap and all that. So anyway, it just made me feel really seen and really understood, because I have a couple of things that have brought me some really hard grief in the last few years that I have been working through, and I feel like I'm kind of for one of them definitely on the later stages, and for another one I'm coming out of that foggy, messy place. And just the humor, and these books are so funny, and but they're so just down to earth. Like I always say that if Jane Austen were a Victorian, she would be Emma M. Lyon. Not the characters in Jane Austen's books, but Jane Austen herself. She would 100% be Emma M. Lyon. And I think that is another reason why they just are super relatable and fun. All right, the second book I read was Munster Village, and this little like writer's journal it has kind of like a mountain country scene in the background and a writer's journal. This one goes with Munster Village by Mary Hamilton. And that is a book that was written during the Regency era. And it's about a woman who sets up like an educational utopia where women are welcome and women are being highly educated. And the book is mostly the author's social commentary and kind of like little sermons that she gives, all the things that she would say if she had, you know, a soapbox to stand on, but intermixed with a story of a woman who sets up this educational utopia. So that's why I chose that sticker. The prompt for number 2 is, describe the setting of this book. Did you like it? Would you want to go to this place? So the setting is England in a little like village or town. The setting isn't super detailed. Like, I can't in my mind picture what this setting looks like, but the idea is that she has built on her property or on some property that she purchased a like an Oxford type sprawling university with, as far as I understand, housing and educational, you know, buildings, and that men and women can study at this university, and then it just kind of goes into the different things that the women learn, and specific women, and kind of like what they do with their understanding, and it makes a lot of commentary points, like when women, you know, she's told that she shouldn't be painting, and the comment was something like, what's a better, you know, use of her time than to cultivate her God-given talents, or something like that. And so anyway, you know, living in a educational utopia when surrounded by, you know, books and access to knowledge and people to bounce ideas off of and all that, that would be fun. I wouldn't want to live there, but to go there and enjoy and then come back, you know, to my regular life here at home, that would be fun. But I also think, you know, I think that if I were just a lifelong academic, the personality that I have, I would become very pretentious. And I would be really, I think I would make me more closed-minded if I just were to live a solely academic life that was solely focused on pursuing knowledge. I think that I am the type that would go so far with it that I would forget about wisdom, and I would forget about the pursuing of the eternal things that matter, right? As far as God and his ways and people and humanity and how we are to treat people. I think that I could get really just self-focused and self-absorbed. And so no, I don't think I would want to live there and stay there, but to visit there on a scheduled, you know, 4 hours a day, 3 days a week sort of thing, maybe. It's a lot easier just to be self-educated at home, though, while I'm in the midst of all of the things that actually take me outside my own selfishness, right? Learning, you know, doing the self-education and finding little snippets of time here and there to sort of fit it in, I think works a lot better for a person who can just become so absorbed. All right, book number 3, I chose this Apple Basket. It was On the Way Home by Laura Ingalls Wilder, and it tells the story, it's like her journal, the story of their travel, her and Almanzo, to their final home in Mansfield, Missouri. So they took that journey by wagon, and along the way, Almanzo trades some things for supplies, and one of the things that he trades for is apples. And so I put the Apple Basket sticker on there. And the prompt says, how long has this book been on your TBR? How do you feel now that you've read it? So the book hadn't been on my TBR for very long. I got it from a friend. When did I go see Laura? My friend's name is Laura, as funny as that is. It must have been in May, because I don't think I had gone to England yet. But I went to see my friend Laura, who just lives a little over an hour up the road from me, but unfortunately I don't get up there very often. So she gave me a stack of books, and this was in it, along with another book by Laura Ingalls Wilder, which I'll talk about in a minute. So yeah, it's only been on my TBR since May. I feel good having read it. However, it's going in my permanent collection, you know, into my library. So it's not really as if I like got done with a book, right? I didn't really unhaul a book or anything like that, because it just got moved to a different shelf, which I always feel good about. As you guys can see, my TBR shelf is kind of like thinning out a bit, mostly because I put it all on this cart for Shorty September. I put every short book I have on that cart. But anyway, it is thinning out a little bit, so that's good. Yeah, I need to get some bookends and make it look nicer for sure. All right, number 4 is this suitcase sticker here. Isn't that adorable? If I remember, I'll put the link to the Etsy shop in the description box where I get these stickers. I absolutely love this shop. I have bought so many sticker sheets from this girl, and it is the same sticker company that I used for my giveaway in July. Anyway, so the book was West from Home by Laura Ingalls Wilder, and that was also a journal. It's actually more like letters, I guess. It was a collection of letters that Laura wrote to Almanzo. There's a few in there from Rose to Almanzo, but for the most part, it's Laura's letters that she wrote home because she had taken the train out to San Francisco to visit her daughter Rose. And this was in 1915, so it was during the time of the World's Fair. And she was getting some tips from Rose about beginning writing for a publication. And so it was before she had written any of the Little House books or anything like that. And interestingly enough, she was older than me. So when I'm sitting here thinking, oh, my life is running out and I'll never have time to do all the things, like she didn't even start writing until she was like a whole generation older than I am now. So there's a lot of time left. Life is long. But anyway, she went out there to get some tips from her daughter, who was a journalist, because she wanted to start writing for publications. So she, Rose actually got her a couple of gigs in local papers back home in Missouri. And so Laura started writing stuff for Missouri and, different things, newspapers or whatever. And then here we are, right, with all these glorious tales that she probably never would have imagined at the time that she would come up with. So that's what it is. It's her letters that she wrote back home to Almanzo to tell him all about San Francisco and her time and how much she missed him and all the stuff. So the prompt for that says, did the description live up to what was inside the book? Did it give too much away? So it was a nonfiction, right? So it's not really giving spoilers or anything like that. The description just told you what it was, and that's what it was. It was everything I just told you. So that was a pretty easy one. Okay, book number 5 has this building here, which I believe are supposed to be like flats or apartments. But I'm using it to represent a boys' prep school because it looks kind of like some of the buildings at the university that I went to in Eastern Oregon. A couple of them especially, I'm thinking, look similar to that. The doorways are wrong, but the other things. Anyway, this was for A Separate Piece by John Knowles. Now, the prompt for this one is free space. Tell us whatever you want about this book. So I read A Separate Piece for my little summer school thing that I made up for the summer. I had just written out some things that I wanted to study and read for the summer, and I'm pretty close to being done with that list, even though it is September. I might be done with it by the end of the month. We'll see. But one of the things that I wanted to do was to read some books that I was assigned in high school that I remember not liking, kind of to give them like another chance and see what the hype was about. Why did my teachers assign these? And those 2 books were Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck and A Separate Piece by John Knowles. And so I've already done Of Mice and Men. I don't want to go there anymore, but A Separate Piece. It was about some boys at a prep school in the New England area in like the mid-20th century. And just, there was nothing relatable. The only woman character was the mention of a boy's mother. Like, there just was nothing in there that related to me. The mind of a boy, the weird sort of competition mixed with admiration. Like, it's not that I didn't get it, it's just that I didn't get the hype over this book. Maybe the boys in high school with me got a whole lot more out of the story. But there's just some books that you just know, or these ones are really better for guys and these are better for girls, and that one is definitely better for guys, and I just didn't love it. I didn't love it at all. But if you have read it, there is a little, question. There's something that the main character, Gene, does that is life-changing, and the question is, did he mean to do it? Did he not mean to do it? In my opinion, he totally meant to do it. And that's kind of the twisted, point of this whole book. And I didn't enjoy it at all. got rid of it, not even thinking about that anymore. It is dead to me. All right, book number 6 has this little kind of beachy scene. And that is because this book was called Pride and Prometheus by John Kessel, and the book kind of opens and ends on the beach, beachy scene. So that worked. Had a slight moment of panic there because the prompt says, what is the first sentence of this book and what do you think about it? And I'm like, I unhauled that book, but I actually haven't really gotten rid of it yet. It's just in my pile. So here it is. This book was like a major disappointment. It was one of my biggest disappointments lately. The first line says, when she was 19, Miss Mary Bennet had believed 3 things that were not true. So what did I think of it? I was very curious. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna read a couple more because now that I'm thinking about it, I did actually think something about this. So that first line was curious and was like a great way to hook a Pride and Prejudice fan, right? But here actually is the first few sentences because I did think some thoughts about this. It says, when she was 19, Miss Mary Bennet had believed 3 things that were not true. She believed that despite her awkwardness, she might become interesting through her accomplishments. She believed that because she paid strict attention to all she had been taught about right and wrong, she was wise in the ways of the world. And she believed that God, who took note of every moment of one's life, would answer prayers, even foolish ones. So of course I stopped there because I was like, ooh, what kind of a tone is this book going to have about God, right? God, who took note of every moment of one's life, would answer prayers, even foolish ones. And that's not true, according to this paragraph. So I wanted to know, is that just Mary's feeling that, oh, God isn't hearing and answering my prayers? Or is that, what the author's going to go with here on a theme? So it did make me a little cautious. It wasn't long into it when I realized it was really just Mary's feeling. In Pride and Prejudice, Mary Bennet is, I guess, super religious. I don't know. I guess it depends on how super religious you are as the reader. That helps you to form your opinion on Mary. Just like Fanny Price, I never really saw like super heavy, huge religious elements. I never saw them as hugely religious characters as much as just moral characters who are guided by scripture. Like, I don't know. But again, if you're not living like day to day morally guided by scripture, maybe you see that as extreme, or maybe it's extreme and I'm just extreme and I need to get over it and so do they. I don't really know, but I never really saw Mary as a super religious character. But a lot of the themes in this book are about Mary realizing that her religion was too strict and too extreme. And anyway, it's just, if I told you all the things, it would be too many spoilers. And those of you who actually want to read this garbage would be, hating me. So the book is a mashup between Pride and Prejudice and Frankenstein. Mary Bennet meets Victor Frankenstein and aids him in some of his sick endeavors. And it could be such a fantastic book, but it's so much not. If you want more details on that, I did just talk about that in my weekly reading vlog, my little wrap up that I put out a couple days ago. Yeah, such a disappointment. Anyway, first few lines, they did make me wonder, what's going on here? That was like the second book in my 3-parter of horrible book streak. I think a separate piece I gave 2 stars to. Pride and Prometheus got 1. And then now the next book I'm going to talk about also got 1. And that is The Scarlet Thread by Francine Rivers. I gave it this sticker right here. All of these healthy vegetables here. And the reason is because this book is so off the rails and toxic that it needs a good dose of health, like those healthy vegetables. The prompt for number 7 is talk about the main character of this book. Did you relate to him or her? Why or why not? Well, it's a dual timeline and there are 2 kind of main characters, but Sierra in the contemporary 1990s timeline features quite a bit more than her grandmother or whatever in the Pioneer Days timeline. So we'll talk about Sierra. Sierra is a 90s woman married to her high school sweetheart with 2 little children, living a happy little life in a happy little town in her happy little home and being happy. And she's a stay-at-home mom, and she does apparently all of the household chores very well and gets her kids to school very well and happily and just fine, and all the things she does really well, and everything is utopia. Her husband comes home one day and tells her that they're moving to the city because he has got a great job as a computer game designer. It's right when all the stuff she didn't even have the right terminology for describing what it was that the husband was going to do, because she was trying to write a new technology sort of novel in the 90s, and we didn't really understand what any of that stuff was about. But basically her husband got a job to go make computer games and be kind of on the front line of the introduction of the internet games and things. According to the terminology in the book, he's making an internet type game. I just thought it was funny. Anyway, so he comes home and he tells her, he doesn't talk it over with her, according to her anyway. He doesn't talk it over with her. He doesn't, he's never mentioned this. He just totally surprises her, and they're moving he's already has the realtor coming the next day to see their house, and they're moving in 2 weeks, and the people that he's working with have already secured him an apartment and all this stuff. So basically he just throws this down in Sierra's lap, and he's like, we're leaving. Sorry about your luck. Get your stuff ready. Take care of all the things and let's go. So she, of course, is feeling very betrayed, and she has no say, that she has no, there's nothing she can do. She feels helpless. She feels controlled. And when she tries to talk to him about it, he flips out and says, I've been talking to you about this for months. You just haven't been listening. I've let you have your small town life ever since we graduated high school, and now I'm ready to do something big with my life. And he is a Hispanic man, so I think the idea was to play on that, idea of a minority marrying a white woman. So he married up and then getting a job in a field that apparently no minorities were in. So he, did all that, and it's just okay, but she never really went anywhere with that after that. So it was more just calling out all the stigmas and then dropping the topic. And it was just kind of like that all throughout. Basically Sierra hates it out there. They fight all the time. Gets to the point where they're going to get a divorce, but then the husband ends up cheating on her, and la 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 la. So it goes on for 450 pages of just depressing, non-redemptive nonsense. It does not even, it's a Christian novel. It does not end in any hopeful way. It's just a mess all throughout. But the part that was really messy and really toxic, and why I am getting rid of this book as fast as possible, and I will not let it near any of my daughters, is that there are many places in this story where his affair is blamed on her. If she would have been a better wife, if she would have been a better homemaker, if she would have been, talked to him more, if she would have then he wouldn't have looked to another woman. And that is such a messed up, screwed up, this is when the secret feminist inside me actually does come out. Because it's not feminism, right? It's just pro-woman. But to blame his sin and his choices on her and her lack, no. That's not, maybe her behavior might cause you in your head to be like, oh, do I really want to be here? Do I really want to be in this? That makes sense, right? Those are thoughts that we have, but then we take those thoughts captive and we don't allow them to come out in actual behavior, right? And that's what happened in this book, is the guy just decided he was just gonna go find someone younger and more beautiful, and blame the whole thing on Sierra, and then Sierra starts blaming the whole thing on herself, right? And so that is when the author's voice is coming out. That when Sierra is saying things like, hey, if I would have just done these things, you wouldn't have looked to her. That is the author's voice. With the author saying that, that's sending a message, and it's not a cool message. And it's not a message that is new. We've heard that before, but it's a wrong message. That's how I felt about the main character. All right, but it was all redeemed when I read the next book. So here is a beautiful perfume bottle, lovely, feminine, something just to make you feel very special, right? If I had that sitting on my dresser, it would sit there until the day I die full of perfume, because I'm that type that's like, oh, it's too special to use. But trying to get over that, right? I'm special. I deserve a beautiful perfume. But anyway, beside the point. But anyway, number 8. That book was The Mystery of Mrs. Christie by Marie Benedict. And that was a 5-star read. It was a 10-star read. It was a 20-star read. I loved it so much. So the prompt for number 8 is name a good quote from this book. If there are several, please share. Ugh, I'm not prepared for this one. Let's see. Nope, I can't think of one. So I'll just give you the main theme and why it's so great. So Agatha Christie went missing, like in real life. She went missing for like 11 days at the time that she found out that her husband was cheating on her with a younger woman. So we have that same theme, but different outcome. And so the husband has decided to leave Agatha. He's asked for a divorce. And so then she disappears. So this all happens in real life, okay? Like this really actually happened. So she's gone for 11 days. Nobody knew where she was. And then she turns up in a health spa and has supposedly lost her memory. So that's the real story. So in this book, Marie Benedict gives the reason why. Like, what was she doing those 11 days? Why did she disappear? Why did she come back and everything was fine again? Like, what happened? And you have to read this book. It is so good. And the whole mystery and everything that happened is so Agatha Christie. It was perfection. It was so good. So good. So read it. It's full of great quotes. Every word is a gem. All right, and then the last prompt features this sticker with these old books with plants like growing on top in these pots. That book is Wild Tales from Early Britain by Amy Jeffs. And so the reason why I used that sticker is because it's like old stories and then new life, right? So like new life coming out of old stories. I don't know, it works. It is a book of medieval tales that Amy Jeffs found and then kind of rewrote and even sort of combined a couple of medieval folklore tales and then rewrote these short stories. And then she goes on to explain like the history of these stories and the meaning behind them, where they came from, whatever. And it's a really interesting book. And so it's kind of like she has brought new life out of these old tales, right? The prompt for number 9 is, who would you recommend this book to even if you didn't love it? So I did love it. Some of the stories I knew and were, I could understand them really well. Some of the stories I didn't know, so I didn't understand what it was she was alluding to until she started her explanation. So I would say if you love folklore, this is a good one. If you love kind of nature and the cycle of man's sort of like relationship with nature, you would love this. The stories are so old that it really is kind of everyone's heritage. If you have a heritage from Western Europe, it's kind of all of our heritage, but especially if you have ancestry in what is now the UK. It's a very great companion if you are studying old English history and mythology. So yeah, I would say it's a little more academic than just maybe like Grimm's fairy tales, because there is a lot of explanation in there and understanding of where these things came from and how and why and whatever. It is a little more deep than just reading fairy tales, but I loved it. I thought it was really great. Okay, that's it. That is my end of summer jam mood readathon or wrap up. That was a really fun readathon to take part in. I've never really done something like that where I was very consistent about the bingo board and the stickers and all the things and the prompts and all the things. So I just really sort of jumped right in and loved it. I really loved it. So thank you to Kelly and all of the other hosts for bringing this out and letting us participate. And I'm looking forward to doing it again if you guys ever do it again. But anyway, yeah, hope you guys are having a great day and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.